Hey, how are you today? Dr. Dave here, and I just want to talk to you today about who is teaching you. Who's teaching you has been the theme in our offices this week. And you say, what? What do you mean, who's teaching me? So listen, remember the days when you learned to drive or when you had kids and you were teaching them to drive? And you get in the car with your child and they start to drive and you're there in the passenger seat, right? And what are you doing? You're driving around town for a little bit. And by the time you're done with that drive, you wish you had a crash helmet, a steering wheel, and a brake pedal in the passenger seat. And you finish that 10 minutes of driving and you're going inside and thinking maybe I should have a couple drinks to calm down. I'm just kidding. We're always about health. But you realize what you just taught your child about driving, right? And what we learned about driving from our parents. But it's not just about driving. It's about our attitudes, our actions, all those things. Who has taught us how to do the wash, how to make our beds, how to keep our house, those types of things. And the thing that bothers me most is who's teaching you about healthcare, right? It's the big pharmaceutical companies. They're teaching you about healthcare, and they're doing it through your doctors. Listen, I had a patient come in this morning, 78-year-old woman in fantastic health. When I'm 78, I hope I am as healthy as she is. And her doctor says to her, I need to send you to a cardiologist. And she says, how come? And the doctor said, well, you're almost 80. And the patient said, but is there anything wrong? And the doctor said, well, no. The patient then says, well, I'm not going. So the doctor said to her, well, I need to send you to a rheumatologist. And the patient says, how come? And the doctor said, well, you're almost 80. And the woman says, I know I'm almost 80, but why do I need to go? And the doctor says, well, in case there's anything wrong. And the patient went back and forth with the doctor till the doctor finally got up. But what bothered the doctor most is the patient's cholesterol was not below 200. What bothered her second was the patient's blood pressure was not below 120. It was 125 over 64. My gosh, for a 78-year-old, that is amazing. 125 over 64. So the question is, who's teaching you? Let's just talk about blood pressure. In the United States, they're saying 120 over 80. And we can give you up to 3 medications to get there. Well, that seems kind of stupid in my opinion. And I've been practicing almost 30 years, 120 over 80. In Europe, they say 140 over 90 before we start considering a medication. And the European nations just recently decided that they're going to stick with their 140 over 90. And they recently rejected, that was just a year ago in June, they rejected the United States guidelines. And in Europe, they said, we're not going to be in a rush to give medications. They're finding even at 150 over 90, by not giving medications, people are experiencing longevity and good health. Not in the United States. You're 121, you got to get a drug. Come on, save the drugs for the people with the really high blood pressure. No, but the European study also found no benefits from the U.S. blood pressure guidelines this past November. And therefore, they're sticking to their 140 over 90. Not in the United States. See, and what did this all stem from? Back in 2013, European study came out that said, hey, blood pressure 140 over 90 is good. We don't need to use medication. Well, in the United States, they did a study and they stopped it prematurely. What does that mean? Let's stop it before it proves us false. And they said, just what I said earlier, we can give you up to 3 medications. Well, that doesn't sound right. Why don't we just take time to figure out what the underlying cause is of someone's blood pressure, high blood pressure that is, and take care of that? Could it be a liver dysfunction, kidney dysfunction? Could it be an adrenal dysfunction from stress? Why is a person struggling with blood pressure? It's not because they're deficient in up to 3 medications. It's because there's something underlying. Maybe we need to correct some lifestyle. Maybe we need to add some exercise or change diet, or maybe they need to get to bed earlier or step away from work for a couple hours a day. Doesn't that sound more reasonable than taking up to 3 medications because you have high blood pressure? And blood pressure that's not even high. So why did they lower it to 120 in the United States? Other way, 120 over 80 in the United States. So that we can give you more drugs when you go to the allopathic provider. You see, our doctors today are not teaching us to be healthy. They're teaching us to be symptom-free through drugs. That is not health. Don't accept that as health. And so I'm here to tell you that we can help you lower your blood pressure naturally. Yeah, that's right, naturally. We'll assess your lifestyle and we'll assess what's happening with you, why you have high blood pressure, and we'll make sure that we can figure out why your pressure is not where it is. Years ago, before we had blood pressure medications, A good blood pressure for a male was 100 plus their age, and for a female it was 90 plus their age. Why? Because medical doctors knew 50, 60 years ago that as we got, and longer, as we get older, we're not as pliable as that 20-year-old athlete. And that's why they made the provisions for that. And people were healthy. Right. Not now. Now we get to get sick on blood pressure medications. Stay tuned next week for statins. Boy, we got to talk there. Anyway, I'm Dr. Dave. If you want your consultation at my expense, mention this video and we'll take care of that. Let's find out about your health. Let's find out what the underlying causes is of the symptoms you're experiencing, and let's do that at my expense. I'm Dr. Dave. You all have a great day.